What's going on, everybody? It's Adam, back at you for hashtag homeless day 45. Loving it. Let's see. I don't even know what to talk about today. Once again, it's Sunday. Had to get out of the shelter. It's just too much. I try to stay out of there as long as I possibly can anymore. It's a mixed bag of good and bad. But it's kind of, after 45 days of this, there's a big contrast between how I felt about it on day 1 and how I feel about it on day 45. There's a lot of good things about it. I have a roof over my head at night. I can take a shower. I can look presentable when I have to go be presentable for, a job interview or whatever the case may be. There are some other resources, and so, it's more good than bad, but the bad has a way of digging in. And who knows, maybe I'll get some other people to come on this channel and talk about their experiences. I haven't really thought about doing that yet, but I think, might be interesting to some of you if I did. Don't really know what'll happen there, but every single one of the people that are in this place will say the same thing about the parts that are bad about it and the parts that make you feel like you would just be better off going to sleep in the woods. There's a couple of them that are just rude and condescending toward everybody, and I watch it. Even if it's not happening to me directly, I sit there and I watch it happening to other people. And there's some people that are really obnoxious to the home. I got enough shit to worry about. I don't need someone copping me a attitude at this place. I just don't. Like I said, it's a lot like being in prison. And one of the things about being in prison is every corrections officer in a prison has a different set of rules to follow. So you not only have to generally know what the rules are, but when you're in prison, you have to learn what every single correction officer's rules are. And they're as different as there are people. One corrections officer will be really strict and tell you can't even have your personal items sitting on top of your locker, and if you do, they'll walk by and just knock it all on the floor and tell you to pick it up and put it away. Another officer doesn't give a crap. They all have, what in the hell is going on now? Someone's walking around the park with a big giant garbage bag looking like he's gonna dump it. Oh wait, maybe they're collecting cans. Okay, I have no idea what's going on. It's nice to come to this park because it's generally quiet, but you see all kinds of stuff when you're sitting here. There's a broken VCR laying on the ground over here with all of the parts just, on the ground. So I don't know, maybe there's something inside of it that you can use to get high. Or maybe just a bunch of little kids thought it would be funny to trash something and leave all the junk laying around. I don't know. This park sucks. This town, Jamestown, New York, is the worst place I've ever been in my life. I hate it. I hate being here. I cannot wait to get out of this place. I hate it. Hate. Somebody asked me yesterday, have you taken any photographs lately? No. I won't even pull my camera out of the bag anymore because it's just nothing but misery and depression. Everywhere you point the camera. I was in Alaska once and I made a joke that even Stevie Wonder could come to Alaska and be an award-winning photographer, because no matter where you point your camera and you hit that button, you're getting an award-winning photograph. If you want to take photographs of misery, despair, depression, and just desolation, that's the way it is in Jamestown. Anywhere you point your camera, that's what you're going to capture. You don't even have to look at the picture you're taking. It's nothing but misery in this town. It's a dump. It's the biggest dump I've ever seen. I've seen more broken down towns, but in those towns, there's more hope and there's better, the people are friendly. There's places in Kentucky that are just scary, trashy. But I would still rather be there than here. Oh, wow. So anyway, yeah, the homeless shelter. Every person that works there has a different set of rules, and, one day, the other day, the one guy in the morning who likes to be rude to everybody, he was yelling at a couple people, and he got in their face and was like, "Didn't you read the rule book?" And, that kind of triggered a memory that I have, that when in my first few days at the shelter, somebody got irritated. One of the workers copped me an attitude about something. I can't even remember what it was. And he said to me, "Didn't you read the rule book? You should know that that's in the rules." And so I was like, I did read the rule book. But I went, when I was at the library later that day, I pulled out the list of rules that they had. And there was nothing in the rule book about whatever it was that they were getting on my case about. Nothing. So, once again, these people, they just make up rules on the fly. Each one has a different set of rules, and you just have to know which one has which rules. And there's so many. It's like being in prison. In fact, there were less rules when I was in federal prison than there are at this place. It's ridiculous, and it drives me insane. I'm thankful to have a roof over my head, access to a shower, and some of the other things that go with it. They feed us, but it comes, nothing free in life. There's absolutely nothing in this world that's free that doesn't come with a cost. There's always a catch, no matter what. If you find something that's free in this world, there's always a cost that goes with it. Nothing is free. And, this is a good example of that situation. So, I don't even know. There's my rant for the morning. Let's see where we're at on time. We're 7 minutes in and I've done nothing. So, yeah, I was at the library yesterday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. It was loud. It was loud and obnoxious, but it wasn't anything close to what the Tim Hortons down the street here would be. Nowhere even close to that. But they were having this big art show. And the whole library was full of tables and art vendors. And there was one photographer, which always interests me. And, I liked a few of his photos. But when I look at, when I go to these art shows, there's no reason I couldn't be just as successful as any of these photographers. And I'm just basing, comparing my work to theirs. And this guy, he didn't even have a ton of work for sale or on display. And his prices were really similar to what I'm charging in my online shops. So that's good research. My ultimate goal in life right now is to find a way to make my living by traveling and doing photography. Teaching photography. Ultimately, everything, I got to get on my feet and I've got to do whatever it takes to find a job and get money in the bank. But my long-term goal is essentially I want to make money. I want to get paid to go on vacation. And if you think that's ridiculous, there's a lot of different ways people make money that are a lot more ridiculous than going on vacation to make money. There was a dude on Kickstarter that got paid $50,000 to make a potato salad. Look this up. There was a guy who held up a sign in the back of a college football game with his Venmo address, and he made $250,000 in donations. and all his sign said was, "I need beer, Venmo." There's a little kid on YouTube. One of the highest paid people on YouTube right now is a little kid. I don't know the name of him. I can't remember. Is it Ryan's World? I don't even know. This little kid, he gets paid $25 million a year to play with toys. This little kid's getting $25 million a year to play with toys. So, don't tell me that it's ridiculous to have a dream that someday I'm just going to get paid to be on vacation all the time. There's a lot more ridiculous ways to get paid in this world than that. Looks like the rain might be coming in. I might cut this off if it starts to rain. And if it starts raining, I'm going to be forced to go to this ridiculous Tim Hortons where the big, Sunday Slam broke out last weekend, because it's too far of a walk to go to another Wi-Fi hotspot. I'll get soaked. It's miserable here. So, but the worst part of being in the crowded library was that I had to go to the bathroom at some point, and I had to sit there and hold it for 3 to 4 hours, because not only will I have to pack everything up, put it in my bag, my laptop, external hard drive, cables, all kinds of things. I have to shut everything down just to go to the bathroom, but I would lose the desk that I was sitting at too, because there were so many people in the library. All I'd have to do is leave the desk and someone's going to take it immediately. So, as I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, I got to look into whatever brand of adult diapers that Joe Biden wears, so that I can just sit there, and if I need to pee, I can do it without having to pack up all my gear every time I have to go to the bathroom. Once again, this library is not a place where you can just leave your stuff sitting on a desk and expect it to be there when you come back. So, if any of you know a good brand of adult diapers, the kind that Joe Biden wears, that can hold an entire adult-sized pee and still let me be comfortable for the next few hours, let me know. I never realized how much of a problem peeing would be when becoming homeless, but trying to find a place to go to the bathroom is one of the biggest challenges you face when you're homeless. And the bigger the city, the harder it is. In downtown Pittsburgh, for example, it's almost impossible to go take a piss somewhere without having to pay someone for it. If you're a regular, if you were in downtown Pittsburgh all the time like I used to be for my job or for other things, you'll eventually learn which businesses keep their bathrooms unlocked and which large buildings have a food court with an open public restroom. But even in those situations, if you look like a homeless person, if you come in all ragged and smelly, the security are going to nail you before you even make it to the door in those places. So, big cities, they're extremely hostile toward the homeless people. And, to be honest, it's the Republicans who are cheering that on. The Republicans don't want to help anybody. That's not in their... The Republican way of life is to worry about yourself and everybody else can go fuck themselves. That's how Republicans operate. And so here we go. I've been talking smack about the Democrats for weeks on this channel, but the Republicans are garbage too. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. You'll find that out. Honestly, when it comes to getting help in my current situation, the Democrats have done a lot more than the Republicans. The Democrats are where my money and the roof over my head is coming from right now. So keep that in mind. I was in church one day, and this was a long time ago. This was down in Pittsburgh years ago. And the pastor was giving a sermon, and he said, people keep asking me if Jesus would be a Republican or a Democrat if he were here in America right now. And all he had to say was that he'd be neither one of them. First of all, Jesus would not want all of you sitting around waiting for the government to give you a free handout and just live off of that. But at the same time, Jesus would not want to see 1% of you hoarding 99% of all the wealth while you greedy pricks sit around watching the remaining 99% fighting over the 1% of the scraps that you let fall off the table. And he went off on that topic for over an hour. I'm just scratching the surface of what he said, but I wholeheartedly agreed with him the whole time he was giving that sermon. It's one of the sermons I remember the most from my time going to that church. And so a lot of you have been telling me in the comments, and I already knew this, that the Supreme Court just decided in favor of a ruling that will make it illegal for homeless people to sleep outside. Now that's illegal. Previously, the lower courts had ruled that removing homeless people from public encampments constituted a violation of the Eighth Amendment regarding cruel and unusual punishment. The Supreme Court today, or the other day, overruled that decision, declaring that it's not a violation of the Eighth Amendment for cities to remove homeless people from the public. Don't take my word for it. You can look it up. This covered not only by all news media, but it's, publicly available from the Supreme Court's webpage. I knew about this, but in my case, they would have to find me sleeping outside before they could kick me out of the outdoors. If it came down to sleeping outdoors, I'm not one of these people who'd sleep in a homeless camp out in the open for everyone to see and come harass me. I already have 25 to 30 places marked out in this town alone where I could just walk in and camp here without anybody ever knowing I was there. Places where in some of these places, I'd feel like I was on a secluded backpacking trip enjoying nature. Versus sleeping under some loud bridge surrounded by drunks and drug addicts all night. Being willing to walk a mile or two in a town where people are so lazy that they will drive to go to their next door neighbor's house, it gives you a big advantage over most of the sheep. I'm going to find a good place to sleep if it comes down to that. So, I don't want to give away all my secrets as to how I find places to camp when I travel. Because, I don't want to see any of you there when I arrive. I want to have the place to myself, but it's so easy that anyone should be able to figure it out. And I will give you some of the basics. For example, if you have a car or a vehicle, it becomes a lot more difficult because you basically have a big box on wheels with a license plate that tells anybody who you are that wants to look up that license plate number. So it's a lot harder to disappear. It's a lot harder to hide a vehicle than it is to hide yourself. But when you have a vehicle, you also have the ability to travel and drive to places. And state forests and national forests are full of easy to find, ready-made, free places to camp. And generally speaking, these are the best places to camp, with a vehicle or without. The scenery, the solitude, everything else that comes with it is totally worth the drive. Right here in Jamestown, there are 3 to 4 state forests, really close. Talking about 15, 20-minute drive from downtown Jamestown, and they're legal to camp in. And it's free. So if you're camping where you aren't supposed to in a vehicle, it still could be easy to get away with if your vehicle is set up for it. And it looks inconspicuous. If it just looks like your vehicle's parked in a parking lot or something like that, people will generally leave you alone. Before I was arrested, I had a pickup truck turned into a mini camper. And I did that all the time. I had wheels, so I would go to secluded places instead of parking lots, but there were times that I would just park in a parking lot because maybe I wanted to shoot a sunrise photo and I just wanted to be there when the sun was coming up. So I would just park in a parking lot where you would park to hike to the sunrise location, jump in the back of the truck and sleep for a while on the bed. My bedroom's right there. But if you don't have a vehicle, you are going to be a lot less conspicuous. On a bicycle, I can easily travel 100 miles a day on a bicycle, but I can't carry as much on a bicycle as I can on a backpack. My longest one-day bicycle ride was 174 miles in a single day, and my longest multi-day bike ride was about 800 miles. A bicycle is kind of like a car because it affords you the luxury to get out of town and find more secluded places to camp. And then you can go back into town when necessary. A bicycle looks very inconspicuous, even if you're loaded down with panniers and saddlebags and such. Especially if you dress like a yuppie who's out on a bicycle tour or just a regular dude. Nobody bothers you. It's very easy to cycle to a place where there's nobody around and you don't see any posted private property signs. And it's easy to find places where you can just duck into the woods and set up camp for the night. I do it all the time. I have no fear on a bicycle ride as to where I'm going to sleep at night. I don't even have to plan it out. I always find a good place to sleep. It don't matter where I am. Hiking, that's a little different. When I showed up in Jamestown carrying my 60-pound rucksack, wearing jeans and a t-shirt, everybody in town knew exactly what was going on. I stood out like a sore thumb, but I knew it. If you really don't look like a homeless guy and you look like a backpacker or a serious hiker, people might not pay as much attention. So I could have changed my clothing around a little bit to come across as looking like someone who's just on a long hike. There are a couple of little adjustments I could have made to blend in a little bit better and not get the weird stares that I was getting that day. But the key is, when you're about to duck into the woods where you plan on setting up camp, you just need to make sure nobody's around before you do. Once you're 50 feet into the woods, nobody's going to notice or care anymore. You go back 100 feet from the road, and you can enjoy yourself and most likely never see another person the whole time you're there. Pick a good spot with a water source, and you can have a campfire and listen to some good music for the night. On my long walk to Jamestown, I was harassed a little bit by a few country boys in pickup trucks who stopped to ask what I was up to, but they were really friendly, saying something like, "Hey, man, you out hunting or are you just going on a long hike?" And I would just say, "I'm on a long hike, I'm headed to Jamestown." And then they'd leave me alone. But I was fully aware what they were doing. These guys were making sure that some homeless bum wasn't about to go camping and sneaking around on their land. But the thing is, if I were to go camping and sneaking around on their land, I would have gotten away with it because I know how to do it without anyone knowing. I've done this so many times that I know what I'm doing. People out in the country are very observant, though, about people who look like I looked that day. I lived out in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania, Amish country, in the woods, next to state game lands. And one day I went for a drive, and I saw this raggedy old guy walking down the road with a long, scraggly beard, and he was carrying a large backpack with trekking poles. And I knew exactly what this guy was up to. He was headed to the game lands to set up camp for the night. And I was cool with it. I would do it myself if I were him. But when I got to the end of my road and I turned, a state trooper passed me and turned to go down my road. And I immediately thought to myself, I know where the state trooper's going. About 30 seconds later, another state trooper passed me and turned to go down my road. So what happened in this situation was the locals saw this guy walking down the road with his backpack, and even though he wasn't breaking any law, there's no law that says you can't walk down the road with a backpack on your back, but these nosy assholes, they all called 911 to report that there was some crazy homeless guy headed toward the state game lands parking lot. So 2 state troopers showed up in their cars to harass the guy, and probably told him to keep on keeping on and that they'd be watching him. They were there to let him know it's not legal to camp on the state game lands, but I've done it. The times I've done it, I just make sure I'm so deep in the woods that if and when these lazy cops show up, I know that they're too lazy to walk far away from their vehicle, so I just go back into the thick parts of the woods, well away from any vehicle access trails, and I make it so that they would have to walk up on me. And I try to make sure that I keep a visual obstacle between me and the direction that they would be coming from, either a big rock or a hill or thick trees or something like that. But also a place where I have a line of sight and I can see them coming. The last time I did that, it was the last night of an 800-mile bike ride, and I really wanted to camp at a campground with some showers, But the only one that I passed, they wanted $70 for a night of camping. And I was like, what? You want more money for me to sleep on a spot of dirt than I would pay to sleep at some roach motel? No thanks. So I went and camped in the game lands. And I went way back in the woods and set myself up next to a little creek, got a little campfire going, and I enjoyed the evening. And I made sure if the ranger showed up in the middle of the night, he'd never see me, and that I'd see him coming from over a mile away. And I'd have time to put out the campfire and, do whatever needs to be done. If I have to, I had an escape route the opposite way of where he'd be coming from. But the next morning when I left, as I was taking the four-wheel drive access trail back up to the main road, some guy had a small tent pitched right in the middle of the trail. Probably some homeless traveler who was doing the same thing I did last night. But the only difference was this guy was an idiot. He pitched his tent in the middle of the Jeep trail. And if the ranger had showed up, not only should he see the tent right away, but there's a chance that he might not and just run the guy over. So another trick when it comes to that kind of thing is, hey, how you doing, buddy? Cool little dog just walked by. So another trick when it comes to the stealth camping is to make sure that there are enough idiots who will get caught and keep the ranger occupied while you're in a hidden location deciding whether or not you need to pack your gear and head out while he's writing the other guy a ticket. It's the same concept of, you don't have to be faster than the crocodile. You just have to be faster than the slowest zebra at the watering hole. And you'll be all right. So with all of that, I think I've spent enough time on this video today. Let me see where we're at on time. We're at that normal half-hour mark. And so hopefully you got some interesting tips. If you want to see how easy it is to stealth camp, and to camp right under people's noses to the point where they won't see you, but you're right in front of them, go to this guy's channel on YouTube called Steve Wallace. I mean, this guy's YouTube channel is 100% stealth camping, and he goes to some of the most ridiculous spots, sets up camp right under people's noses, and gets away with it. In fact, I don't think the guy has ever been caught once. And if he ever did get caught, people probably wouldn't care anyway, because he's not bothering anybody. But if you want to see how easy this stuff is, go to Steve Wallace's YouTube channel. A little shout out there. I've been watching his stuff for years, and it's not that hard. All the homeless people here in Jamestown, they camp right out in the open, under the bridge, out in the open in the park. They don't try to hide at all. So the cops have plenty to do. And so the same concept, I don't got to be, if the bear is in the neighborhood, I don't got to be faster than the bear to get away. I just got to be faster than the slowest people at the campground. They're going to be dinner tonight, not me. So, you just got to be a little bit smarter than the other people around. So if I'm looking right now where I'm sitting, I see 30 different spots that I could creep up into and set up a camp. I'm looking at one right now, across the road. Nobody would ever know. Nobody would ever bother me. I could probably set up camp there for a week before I'd have to pack up and find another one. So it's easy. It's easy. So with that said, I'm going to peace out. The Supreme Court ruling does not affect me at all. Because, like I said, in order for the police to kick me out of a campsite, they'd have to see me. And they're not going to. So anyway, peace out. Hopefully we'll talk again tomorrow. And hopefully one of these days soon, the video titles are going to change from hashtag homeless to hashtag got a home. Peace.